Lance, the Toronto Maple Leafs offseason has officially begun. A lot of questions, plenty of questions. Let's start with the forwards. James Van Riemsdyk, Tyler Bozak, Leo Komarov, Dominic Moore, Thomas Plekanec. Who out of this group are going to stay?
Well, you know what, James Van Riemsdyk, if he took a hometown discount, he probably would stay, but I think he's going to price himself out of the market, and that's nothing against him. I mean, he's, 36 goals, leading scorer. You got to expect he's moving on. Tyler Bozak, age is an issue there, 32 years old. They have some young centers coming up, such as Miro Aaltonen. I think you have to take a hard look at not bringing him back, although he may take the hometown discount. Leo Komarov, for all he's done, Mike Babcock, a big fan of his, I don't think he's staying around. And then you got guys like Roman Polak, who gave their all. But again, if Toronto can find something better, they're going to go that route.
If we can stay with the forwards, do you think that Andreas Johnsson and Kasperi Kapanen can fill those voids? You know, you talk about Bozak, and I realize that those guys aren't centers, but also JVR. You know, you're losing two key pieces, albeit they're sheltered guys. They're relied upon strictly for offense. But we saw Johnsson and we saw Kapanen towards the end of the year and in the playoffs. They seem like they might be able to at least play up to a replacement level quality.
I think so. Johnsson is a player that they're looking at to replace JVR. If that works out, I think I was impressed by their ruggedness. Johnsson can take some hits and score. And Kapanen, I thought, thank goodness he got that last goal at the end. He was having a tough time against Tuukka Rask, but he's a real weapon on the fourth line who could easily be a top six forward.
Now, you mentioned Roman Polak there. With the defense, two-part question. Do you think he's gone? Roman Polak, 31, but plays like he's probably 38 in terms of how banged up he is and the style of play and how slow he is. And then also Jake Gardiner. Mind you, we're recording this right after the Boston series, so maybe things will cool down. But people are calling for his head. People are saying, get this guy out of here. I think personally, overreaction. I think his pros outweigh his cons. But I'm curious, from your perspective, anything happening on the back end?
Well, certainly Polak, it'll be a challenge to bring him back. The Marlies have some defensive prospects such as Timothy Liljegren and a couple other guys, but they're not really the heavy-set guys. I guess Justin Holl might be the only player on the Marlies who can move up, and he's already in his mid-20s. So I don't see Polak, a replacement for Polak there. Maybe he comes back, maybe not. I agree with you totally on Gardiner, and, number 51 years without a cup. I mean, that's sort of a numerical thing that comes together. But like you said, you can't really hang this whole season with him and then the whole team on one period. You have to look at the whole 105-point year. There's good Jake, there's bad Jake, and more than often than not, he was a benefit to the team offensively. And if you get rid of him, the whole world's looking for defensemen in that age group who can move the puck. He skates like the wind, and you know what? I especially because he signed for a couple more years, I don't see the Leafs abandoning him unless they get a really good trade.
Yeah, and you would think that they are going to look to free agency to shore up the back end because that was a clear problem throughout the regular season, in the playoffs. And then if we transition to the goalies, it looks like that's staying intact, at least for another season. But if we talk about the management side of things, Lou Lamoriello, a lot of uncertainty about his future because, Mark Hunter, Kyle Dubas are sort of lurking in the shadows as possible GMs. Do you have a feel for how this is going to play out? Who's going to be the GM this fall?
I think it's going to be a transition. Maybe Lou steps back a bit. He will be, I believe, 76 years old as come October. But really, you know what? He's not done anything detrimental to the club outside of being older. And there's a lot of older management people out there. I see a slow transition unless somebody comes at one of the two you mentioned. Kyle Dubas certainly is going to excite some other teams out there. Unless something can be arranged that way, I just see Lou coming back and maybe scaling back a bit. But certainly, I guess the thing with Lou is that he'll be judged by not bringing in a defenseman, at least for this season. What happens to next season, and was the Plekanec trade worth giving up a couple of prospects for?